Hello, welcome to the video lesson, or video notes for lesson 5-10. This begins on page 51 in your notes packet in your binder. Okay, so this lesson is about graphing lines using the slope-intercept method. So this is a different strategy that we'll be talking about that basically uses the slope and the intercept to graph instead of making a table. So let's look at the target. The learning target is I can graph a linear function without a table or a t-chart. So being able to graph the function without having to make a table. Now most of the time, if you want, you can still make a table, especially if you want to double check, but I think this strategy will make a lot of sense for some of you that really understand what we're doing. I want to just talk about a couple other things that are important. First, we haven't been using these up till now, but now I want you to start to get in the habit of using a ruler. So, need a ruler. These are straight lines. We want to make sure that they're nice and straight, so we're always going to be using a ruler. The equation of a non-vertical line can be written in the form of y equals mx plus b. We've already talked about this a few times. M is the slope, b is the y-intercept, x is the input, y is the output. Alright, so here is, again, slope we find by using change in y over change in x. Yes, you need to write this down. The y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. Sometimes it goes through the origin, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so an equation written in the form y equals mx plus b is in slope-intercept form. So we're going to use that information to help us graph. And this is basically going to be in two steps. Step 1 is to find or graph, or find, then graph the y-intercept. Step 2 is going to be use the slope to get at least one more point. To get at least one more point. Now, it will be better to get 3 or more points. Better or best. The more points you have, the better chance you have of making this line nice and straight. Alright, so we have an example at the bottom. It's kind of done for you, but I'm going to walk through it with you and point out the different parts. So, this is step 1. And when you're doing this, if you want to get in the habit of writing step 1 and then step 2, the y-intercept gives you a starting point. Start by plotting a point at the y-intercept for the equation. Now, here is the equation. Y equals 4 over 3x minus 1. Let's identify the two things. M, the slope, is 4 over 3, and the y-intercept b is negative 1. Now, we don't really need to do this, but I always like to write it down. The y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. So we have that part of our point, 0, comma. Now, we know that the other part is negative 1, but let's just confirm it. So if I plug in 0 into this equation, y equals 4 over 3 times 0, that's our input, x, minus 1. 4 over 3 times 0. Well, anything times 0 is 0. So then we get y is equal to negative 1. That's what's left, minus 1 or negative 1. There is the point, 0, negative 1. That's the y-intercept. And if you look on the graph, it's right there, 0, negative 1. So we plot that point. Step 2, better use a different color for this so we can see it on the graph. Next, use the slope to find another point on the line, then draw a line to the point. Remember, at least one more, but if we can get more than one more, that would be better. So we're going to do change in y over change in x. Well, m is 4 over 3. So we have change in y is 4, change in x is 3. What does the 4 mean? That's going up 4 spaces. It's a positive 4, so it's going up. The 3 means it's going right 3 spaces. So if I start at the y-intercept, I go up 4 spaces, so 1, 2, 3, 4, I go up to here. And then I go to the right 3 spaces, and there's another point. Now some of you may be saying, well look, they plotted another one. That's right. Because another way to look at 4 over 3 is negative 4 over negative 3. Because a negative over a negative is also positive. What does that mean? That means down 4 and left 3. In other words, it's going in the opposite direction to get another point. So I'm going to go, now notice this graph went over and then down. I'm going to go down 4 and left 3, and that gets me to this point here. Okay? So then I have 3 points, and I can connect them with a nice straight line using a ruler, and ta-da, you're done. Okay, we have 2 more examples on page 52, so let's take a look at them. And these ones we will actually have to do the work for. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So, graph the equation y equals negative 2x minus 3. Alright, first thing I'm going to identify, my m is negative 2, or negative 2 over 1. My b is negative 3. So, step 1, find the y-intercept, a starting point. So, I already know that b is negative 3, but I want to just confirm what it is. It's when x is equal to 0, I'm going to get a y value. What is y equal? Well, if x is 0, let's use the equation. Negative 2 times 0 minus 3. Alright, negative 2 times 0 is 0. So then we get y is equal to negative 3. So there's my point, 0 comma negative 3. Now some of you might be realizing that you don't need to write all this down to get it. For those of you that don't understand it, you're going to write this down every time. When I do the next one, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so the point is 0, negative 3. So I go down 3, and there's my y-intercept. Okay, that's my first point. Step 2, we're going to find some more points using change in y over change in x. So my change in y is negative 2. My change in x is 1. Negative 2 means I'm going down 2. Positive 1 means I'm going right 1 from this point. So down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. And that's all over my head. Now that's enough for me to graph my line. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, and then I'm going to show you what happens if I wanted to keep going and get more points. Okay, that line looks pretty good because if you use a ruler or straight line tool like I did, it should be fairly accurate. I think it might actually be off just a touch. So let me just scooch it over just a touch, if I can. No, I think it's off. So, if you wanted more points to graph, then what you could also do is -2 can come from 2, positive 2 over -1. So what does that mean? That means up 2 and left 1. So go from the y-intercept, go up 2, left 1, then up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1. Now you can see where my line's getting a little bit off. But that is another way that you can get more points. Now some of you might have realized that pattern when you were going down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. And you would just know to go up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1. That's fine. You don't need to write this down if you understand that. Okay, we have one more to do at the bottom. So we're going to graph the equation y equals 1/4 x. M is 1 over 4. B is 0. So I'm not going to go through and plug 0 in for x. Oops. I'm going to just say, you know what, I've done this enough times, I know that because b is 0, my y-intercept is 0, 0, and put a point there. Also, I know it's a positive slope, so I know my line's going to be going up and down this way, so from left to right. So step 2 is to do my change in y over change in x, and that's 1 over 4. Positive 1 means up 1. Positive 4 means right 4. Then up 1, right 4. And that's enough points for me to plot a line. If you want more, some of you might recognize, well, positive 1/4 comes from -1 and -4, so you can go down 1 and to the left 4, down 1 and to the left 4, and you're all done. Then all we do is use our line tool, for me, and for you, you're going to use a ruler, make it nice and straight and perfect, and put arrows, and you are done. Okay, for some of you, this might be a little bit of a challenge, because it's definitely doing something different than what we're used to. If you like making tables, then it's okay to make a table, especially to check and make sure everything works. But this is just another strategy for graphing lines. So if you need help with this, go back and rewatch the video, ask a friend for help, come and see me. Good luck, and we will see you in math.